Hello. I'm having a really hard time telling when I need to start. I don't think. Hi, guys. I think I'm live. I hope I'm live. I was told, I was given some instructions, and then Fatma left me. So, I'm Shannon O'Hara. Welcome to the tail end of this Exponentializing Facebook Live Extravaganza Possibility Smorgasbord. I have chosen today to work with the exponentialization of the economy of consciousness. It is a topic that I am very interested in, and that I think can and does create profound changes in the ways in which we create, the ways in which money shows up in our lives, and something that's well worth knowing about. So when I say the economy of consciousness, I mean that consciousness has an economy. And if any of you guys don't know what economy really is, you've probably heard the word, but maybe not really gotten what it is. To put it down to its simplest terms, economy is essentially what gets created when all of us are choosing and doing what we need to do to get what we want, to get what we need, and to get what we choose to have in our lives. And that's cars, that's massages, that's a house, it's everything that has to go into how finances and things flow within society, within our lives, and also within particular businesses, etc. So ultimately, to simplify, the economy is what everybody does to get what they need. And so what I started recognizing maybe a couple of years ago, at some point I looked around at Access, and I watched Gary start the business of Access. Obviously, I was very young, so I was 12. So I had no real reference point or point of view or interest or anything. And I watched him grow that business from scratch. I think it's been 28 years now, I think, give or take. And I looked around a few years ago, and I thought it was so fascinating how there were all of these people involved with Access. Access has hundreds and hundreds of staff all over the world doing and creating all sorts of different things, like all the time. And what I thought was really cool was that a lot of the staff of Access and the facilitators of Access are, sorry, my headphones just went weird. I hope that everybody can hear me okay. Sorry guys, I just want to double check. Okay, good, everything's okay. So a lot of the staff of Access are basically incentivized to earn what I call like Access dollars. So a lot of the staff gets paid in the modern fiat currencies that we use, dollars, euros, etc. But they also earn Access classes and all of the currencies that come from the creation of consciousness. So it's this choice to work with this organism, which is Access, that pays back in money and currency, or excuse me, the currency of cash, of course, but it also pays in all of these other currencies, such as ease, expansion, lightness, happiness, which are all currencies that because we don't really, that's not looked at something as something we earn. It's looked at something we need to choose, which of course we do choose, but we also choose to have money. And so I've often looked at creation. I'm an extremely creative person. And so I've been very interested in creation, but what is it that I wanted to create was always the question. And I loved access, and I've always loved access, and I still love access. And through working with the energies of access as a facilitator, and knowing access for the majority of my life, I have gotten this insight into creation and watched how the engagement with access and with consciousness has exponentialized the energies that come into my life, the energies that I'm capable of generating and creating, and the financial revenue that I'm capable of generating and creating. And I don't know if any of you guys are access facilitators out there watching this. Chances are many of you are access facilitators watching this. You probably know this phenomenon firsthand, whether you've acknowledged it or not, which is that when you facilitate an access class, the money comes in ways that you couldn't have expected, and things show up in ways that you couldn't have expected. And not only does the money come, sometimes easier and in higher volume than you really can even logic, but also what comes is all of this energy and all of this joy and all this enthusiasm and all of this other stuff that is of value and is of relevance, and is it acknowledged by this reality as a valid currency? And so I started recognizing that working with consciousness, which is essentially what I see facilitating access as, that you're in essence, you're interfacing with this organism, with the organic, infinite energies of the universe to, in essence, give people greater access to the infinite energy of the universe. So it's through our points of view, our judgments, our beliefs, our attitudes, that we limit our access to the infinite source of energy that is possible and that is. And so every time I would facilitate an access class, I'd notice that there was this incredible inflow of transformation into my life. There was more joy, more expansion, more energy, more possibility, more freedom, more ease. And I was like, that's interesting. Not only is my money increasing, but so is my happiness. And I started recognizing after looking at it long enough that the economics of consciousness, because consciousness does have an economy, but it isn't the calculation of the gross domestic product, which, by the way, that's how most nations calculate their economy, is by calculating their gross domestic product, how much that nation produces, basically. Produces in all ways, produces industrially, in manufactures, in services, etc. And so if you look at consciousness, like what does consciousness manufacture? Ease, joy, and glory, expansion, happiness. Does consciousness have resources, and do we acknowledge them as valuable, or do we even choose them? And that's something I saw, was that a lot of the people who were choosing to work with access, whether as a staff member and or as a facilitator of the tools of access, were in essence recognizing a particular currency that isn't always monetary and isn't always linear and isn't at all calculatable. Is that a word? Sorry, translators. What is it? What's the word when you calculatable? Quantifiable. We'll use that word, quantifiable. And I watched all these people, myself included, being very interested in the resource of access and the revenue that access produces, which is monetary, but isn't only monetary. And so if we start to acknowledge the currency and to receive in addition to money, how would that change the way that you function in the world? Has ease, for example, because ease is I would say is one of the primary and most valuable resources and commodities to me, But ease is one of the primary commodities of access. The mantra of access is all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory, which people hear initially and then I think never believe or really fully understand until one day they do. You get it when you get it. And it's like, is ease, let alone joy, a valuable commodity or a relevant resource in your world? And so everything that is and everything that brings up, let's destroy it and create it. Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, punctures, boys, we had. That's Max in his underwear. You guys then got a little extra bonus of Max in his underwear. So it's this thing of, when we look at the magnitude of the economy, when we look at the magnitude of ecology, when we look at the magnitude of the interconnectedness of all of our lives, the interconnectedness and the beautiful harmony of nature and how the earth creates itself, how resources are abundant on this planet, and all of the weird shit that goes into managing, owning, distributing, and controlling those resources. Which, let's face it, that's a massive part of the economy, is man believing that it owns the resources and then, capitalizing on that ownership, all of which is invented. No one owns anything. No one can own anything. Owning is conceptual. You don't own your house. No one owns the water. No one owns the oil. We just agree as societies to sort of honor these invented structures of economical ownership. And I am very enthused by the possibility of recognizing that it's like there is so much energy, so much resource, so much currency, so much value beyond what we tend to reference as our monetary possibility. And so if you will access, if you will entertain, if you will question, if you will work with and recognize the economy of consciousness, that consciousness is a resource that responds to your choices, that is abundant, that has qualities, and do you value those qualities? We tend to, I think, fixate on money as the most valuable thing that exists. However, money is like ownership, it's totally invented. Money is 100% conceptual and not naturally occurring. It's not real. It's an idea. Money was invented as a method and a means to facilitate easier trade. Our back ancestors, our ancestors' lived as we do. They had bodies, they ate, they walked upon the earth, but they didn't have the money that we have today. The money and the monetary systems that we know and understand today have been developed over millennia, and they are not necessarily always going to be this way. They're going to, of course, keep evolving and changing. And I think something that's really interesting to recognize presently about our monetary systems is that I believe we are standing on the precipice as a world economy of moving from fiat currencies, which are the paper currencies that we use, into digital currencies, which obviously all of us are seeing more and more. And if we look at our bank account, we see numbers on a screen. That's digital. That's not actually gold or silver or paper money sitting in a vault somewhere. It's invented. Those numbers on the screen are invented, as is the number that we see on a bill, on a Swiss franc, or on a dollar bill, or on a euro. Those denominations and amounts that are denoted to those bills, and we just believe in societies on that's what they mean. And so you have to look at it's like, if you put the majority of your relevance or importance or significance onto money as we currently know it, you're wasting a huge amount of your energy, and you're actually putting your energy into something that won't generate, because money isn't real. So what is real? Energy. Space. Consciousness. The only reason we have money as societies is to facilitate easier trade with one another. For example, if my next door neighbor produced cheese and they wanted something that I had, like they wanted, a healing spell or, salt or a cow or whatever. They wanted something, a resource or a service that I had, but I didn't want what they had to trade. They could instead then trade me money that I could then use to go trade with somebody else to get what I did want. So in that way, it makes trade easier. It make money, the currencies that we use today make trading amongst one another, which is essentially what creates the economy, easier. So money is a tool, but it should never be the substitution for choice, the substitution for creation. How many of you guys do this thing where you think you have to have the money before you can choose something or before you can create something? That's actually back to front. What's really true is that money follows the choice. And so in essence, when you deal with the economy of this reality, you're extremely miseducated about the way in which the economy of consciousness, which is the true economy, actually functions. Money follows choice, not choice allows and follows money. First you choose, then the money, the resource, the components required to institute, to actualize, to bring that choice into existence start showing up. And so if you wait for the money to show up, you're always waiting for a lie, because money's never real. Remember, money's not real, guys. It's a tool that facilitates and enables easier trade. That's all. It is not actually of any value. So what is of value to you? And I think this is why so many humanoids, well, people in general, really struggle with money endlessly, because they actually can't find the value in money, because money has no real value. It's 100% invented. So if you will start to access the economy of consciousness, you will look beyond money to what is truly valuable to you. What is truly of value to you? Is it happiness? Is a happy body of value to you? So on and so forth. So if you will acknowledge what is of real value to you, then all of the elements in the universe will contribute to substantiating that request on your part, that choice from you. And that's how the economy of consciousness works. The economy of consciousness is an ever-flowing in quantum entanglement of energy, possibility, and it absolutely includes money as we know it today, but it does not exclude choice and possibility and receiving and ease and joy and glory. And if you truly desire to, let me ask you this. What do you desire? What do you truly desire? If you had your reality with money, meaning, what if your reality with money didn't look like anybody else's? What if it didn't match what you've seen around? Or are you not willing to make the choices that institute that which will exponentialize not only your bank account, but the ease, joy, and glory in your body? the wealth of your being. And what else is possible? So it's a very different way of functioning. And the key elements, in essence, the key elements of the economy of this reality are productivity, labor. There's sort of one key element I'm missing, but basically productivity, labor, and trade, I'd say. Oh, I should have had this, actually. I just finished, give me 1 second, please, guys. I just finished facilitating the most mind-blowing 4-day foundation class. Literally yesterday was our last day, and I am extremely different from it. So I'm like talking from a very different place. The economy of this reality this is the definition of the economy of this reality if you were to look up economics. As defined by Adam Smith, I think there's a lot of debate about economy in the world. And it's interesting because there's actually no degree for economy. So people who are economists are basically like self-proclaimed. And yeah, so that's just an aside. The economy of this reality, for the most part, is defined by production, what we as a nation produce, iron ore, tourism. Well, I would say tourism is more of a service, but what we produce, distribution, how those resources and how what is produced is distributed amongst the people, and consumption. Consumption. I think we all know what consumption is. We're in a very consumption-based time. That's the economy of this reality. The economy of consciousness is generation and creation rather than productivity. So instead of looking at what you have to do, you want to look at what creates and generates. And that's why in Access, we talk about creation, true creation, being question, choice, possibility, and contribution. If you are functioning, if you are creating, if question, choice, possibility, and contribution are your tools for life, are the things that you use every day, that will give you greater access to the economy of consciousness because they will make you generative and creative. Production, which is the economy of this reality, is about what you do. How many of you guys are endlessly distracted or stuck or looped into how do I? And has that how do I worked? Has it worked to create the life, the living, the reality, the world that you want to live in? So if we compare and then change from the perspective of the economy of this reality, from production to generation and creation, what energy, space, and consciousness can you and your body be to generate and create the life, the living, the reality, the world you would like to live in? That's now accessing the economics, the interconnectedness of consciousness, so that all of the molecules of the universe will move to generate your request. That's creation and generation. The second component of the economy of this reality, distribution. If its comparison or equal in the economy of consciousness would be expansion. So instead of doing and then distributing those resources equally amongst the people, we generate and create through our question, choice, and possibility, and through our generation and creation, all expands. Everyone's lives expand. And that's what, not only does everyone's life expand, everyone's consciousness expands. Everything is expansive. And that's one of the really huge things that I noticed about people that come to work with Access is that they like their expands, their joy expands. There's this incredible expansion of people's lives that interface with not only the business of Access, but also facilitating the tools and resources of Access. So that expansion is this incredible phenomenon of consciousness. And I don't know about you guys, but I love expansion. So that's why instead of looking at what I have to do and how do I equally distribute the resources of my productivity, I'm looking at what choice can I make to generate and create that will facilitate the expansion and growth of consciousness and the increase of oneness. Okay, and the third component of the economy of this reality is consumption. We all know how that's going. We are currently in the process of watching the human race consume this earth to death. The economy of consciousness aspect of consumption is receiving. So if you function from the economy of this reality, it will be a consumptive process. If you function from the economy of consciousness, which is question, choice, possibility, contribution, which leads to expansion for everyone and everything, you will then access greater receiving. And that receiving, I think, is this very mysterious, unknown superpower that all of nature functions from. All of nature functions from simultaneous gifting and receiving. It's just the people that don't. Why is it that people don't? Because we've been brainwashed to believe in limitation, that there's a limited resource, or that we are somehow limited in our being or with our choices, none of which is real and true. Nothing is limited in the universe. Literally, energy is unlimited. All of nature is constantly generating and creating. You, my friends, are part of nature. We are the expression of consciousness embodied. What else is possible if you will trust the resources and the economics of consciousness? And so just as I wrap up today, we have several minutes. I want to give you guys some practical things that you can utilize to access greater consciousness and stimulate the economy of consciousness to work not only for you, but for all better. Number one, now this is a tough one. This is a super hard one, but I'm going to say it. You have to stop referencing limitation as a reality. Meaning, in the Access Foundation, one of the 10 commandments of access, would an infinite being choose this? What if you really are an infinite being? And what if all energy is actually infinite? Is nature limited? Or is nature constantly generating, always creating? Have you stopped generating and creating? What point of view of limitation did you buy, did you make real and true, or was enforced on you that disabled your access to infinite possibility, infinite being, and infinite energy? And everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, POD POC, shorts, boys, beyonds. So it's like that. Every time you want to go into, I can't because I can't afford it, or you're limited in some way, or there's some limited amount of resource and you need to get yours because you need your equal share, et cetera, et cetera. All of these ways in which we do, that we reference limitation as a reality. You've got to catch it when you're doing it, and you've got to stop. You've got to go to the question of, if I was an infinite being, if I was functioning as an infinite resource, if I was willing to be as infinitely creative, infinitely powerful as nature, what choice would I have available to me? So that's actually, I'm just going to give you that one as the exercise for greater, for you, for the economy of consciousness, and for changing what shows up in our lives and for changing the way in which we function in the world. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's been really interesting doing this. Like, I can't hear anybody or see anybody. I'm not on the Facebook event. I'm on the, I'm sort of just having to talk to this energy, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. I do think you'll probably want to go back and re-listen because it's full of very complex but extremely simple and different ways of looking at how to create and the way in which the world can function for us. And if you are interested in exponentializing your life, your being, all of consciousness for all, I trust that you are the source. And if you will learn from nature and have the courage to make a different choice, to question the way in which you're functioning, and to have the excitement, the enthusiasm, and the bliss of not having the same limitations as everybody else. I invite you to that possibility. And if that feels difficult, just do more access. Use the tools. It will work for you no matter what. Thank you all so much. I will play with all of you guys out there somewhere in the universe someday in some way. And how does it get better than this? Thanks, guys.